I wanted a challenge in my next step of my collegiate career, and I wanted it to be hard, and I didn't want anything to be easy. And I think that's definitely what I've gotten so far. And I've learned a lot about myself as a player and as a person. And so I'm super grateful for that. It's truly special being a part of a team that I can see competing for national championships for a really long time. I mean, obviously it's Minnesota. Like, it doesn't get much better than that.
Hello and welcome back to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that brings you inside the world of women's hockey, one story at a time. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I'm joined by Molly Jordan, defender with the University of Minnesota. Molly, welcome to the show. How you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I want to dive in because we have so much that I want to cover today. So I want to dive in back at the beginning of your story. So if you could maybe take me back to Connecticut and how hockey first entered your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my dad, actually, when I was growing up, he would, I have an older brother who played, and so he would always build a rink in the backyard. And I think, like, my parents tell the story of me, like, standing at the back door, looking through the glass, just peering out. I think it was around maybe, like, I want to say 2 or 3 years old, just looking out, wanting to get out there with my older brother. And my dad played in college, and so it was so easy to kind of get started. And it started as so fun, and being able to, like, be at your house in your backyard on a rink was pretty sweet. But yeah, a lot of my earliest memories are out there and just having fun.
I absolutely love when a hockey story starts with an ODR. Like, it just, if there's not an ODR as a part of your origin story, are you even playing hockey? So I love that. And I mean, you touched on it a moment ago, but like, could you share maybe more specifically what some of those earliest memories were for you? Were they, just having fun with the fam? Was it also, did you feel like that competitive spirit early on? Like, just walk me through that.
Yeah, I would say, like, I remember, like, obviously my parents took a lot of videos and pictures when we were out there, but we used to have, like, our little knee hockey nets, and that was kind of how I didn't fall over every second, and kind of just being able to ski around holding that. And I think a lot of my competitive nature came from that, and just wanting to always, like, look up to my older brother and play with him. And obviously, like I said, my dad played, and so kind of like picking things up from him. And I'm sure he'll tell you if you ask him, but, like, he's my biggest, like, play buddy when I go home in the summer. And we always do, like, little competitions, and I think that's definitely where it started for me.
Now, hockey growing up wasn't your only sport. Now, you were also into lacrosse, field hockey, even golf. It's always fascinating to learn that you're good at not just one sport, not just two sports, not just three sports, but multiple sports. Um, how important or how valuable was it for you to have kind of divested your skill set and spent time in a number of different sports? And how did that translate back to hockey as well?
Yeah, I would say, like, especially when you're young, like, I think kind of being able to split up your time between different sports and different things that you enjoy. Like, obviously, I think I knew from a young age that it was hockey that was kind of like the biggest love in my life at that time for a sport. And but I think I also found so much joy in meeting so many different people. I mean, I had, like, basically 3 teams worth of teammates and friends. And it's just so much fun. And I think, like, being able to kind of play those other sports, you start to, like, build yourself as, like, more of an all-around athlete versus, like, I'm just a hockey player. But no, I think it was super important for my development, and I think, like, it definitely helped me. And there's things that translate. I mean, obviously field hockey is not hockey, but there's some things that translate. And so I think I just had a lot of fun of, like, picking those little things out and just trying to get better at each sport, and kind of had fun with that.
Yeah, so I guess this begs the question then. I mean, outside of golf, although I guess you can play golf as a part of a team as well, but those are all team sports as well. How did you find growing up and being able to be a part of teams, but different kinds of like teams on different kinds of sports. How is that for you growing up? And what do you think that that was also part of your an important part of your development too?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, aside from, like, sports too, like, it helps you, like, grow as a person and, like, a mature, like, young adult, and, like, being able to I think, like, there was a few times, obviously, like, when you are on different teams, like, making sure, like, you're managing your time and kind of, like, putting in your effort when you're at each sport, but then kind of also remembering, like, you have to recover from each thing that you're doing physically too, but no, I think, no, it's great, and I think, like, those sports, like, obviously, like, all I mean, they're little communities too, like, I like to say, like, hockey is, like, such a small world, but it's also so big, and, like,
Mhm.
the connections that you make are lifelong, and, yeah, I really cherish those too.
Okay, so let's continue through your hockey journey into your junior career with the Connecticut Polar Bears, as well as Bishop Kearney. Um, what did those years teach you about the game, of course, but more importantly about you as well?
So much. I mean, I'll start with the Connecticut Polar Bears, but, like, I think just, like, obviously being from Connecticut, it's not a huge hockey state, but it is growing into one now, so obviously that's great, but, one of my coaches with the Polar Bears, Janice Yang, is someone who, I mean, just would do anything for me, and, she was my biggest supporter back then, and she still is now, and so she actually let me play up, so I was a little bit younger playing with the older girls, and I think hockey-wise, it just really helped me develop a little bit faster and start to play more of, like, a mature game from a
Mhm.
younger age. And then obviously selects was, a really special experience
Mhm.
and, um, it's super hockey focused, and so I think it was cool to, like, go there for my senior year and just be like, "Hockey, hockey, hockey," and
Mhm.
you're in an environment where everyone just wants to get better and everyone's pushing each other, and the coaches over there are great. Obviously a lot of good players coming out of Selects Academy,
Mhm.
and so, it's great, and I think, like, before college too, it was great to be, just training and doing exactly what I can. My youth career, I look back and I just get the biggest smile on my face because of all the people that kinda helped me along the way, and I obviously still look back and, give all thanks to them for kinda getting me to where I am now.
When you were a kid, Connecticut isn't necessarily a spot that you really think of as being a hockey hotbed, if you will, but it continues to grow. And you still have those relationships with people, of course, back home. But what does that mean to you as well to see the continued growth of hockey back home, but also to maintain those really important relationships that were so important to you when you were in your junior career?
Yeah, no, I think, like I mean, I actually in the summer, I coach, I run, like, I'm one of the many coaches, actually, but Janice kinda brought me on board a couple years ago, and I'm able to work with them on the ice in the summer and just kind of seeing all those little girls, and we also have some boys that come in too, so that's awesome, but I think, like, coming from Connecticut, like, it's not Minnesota youth
Mhm.
hockey,
Yeah.
and I've kind of gotten to know that since I've been here, but, um I love going back in the summers now and just seeing, like, where it's come and how far along, like, things have come there, and obviously, like, I'm proud to be from Connecticut,
Mhm.
and, um, I continue to kind of advocate for the younger girls, and, I mean, you see the past Olympics, what hockey has kind of grown into, and it's truly so special, and, yeah, I love going back home and just being able to kind of give my 2 cents to the little girls and kinda just showing them, like, you can get to the next level and, um, it'll take hard work, but, like, if you love the game and you love what you do, then that's all you need sometimes.
Okay, so then coaching, I need to ask, um, how's that been for you? And has that maybe shaped or changed the way that you see the game and maybe added even more fuel because you see how passionate they are and it kind of brings out another level? I know that you're passionate, of course, but an even deeper passion and fuel for the game?
Yeah, I mean, it coaching, I absolutely love it. Like, I look forward to going to the rink to coach and, um, like I said, like, the little girls, like, they just, like, absolutely rip around out there. They have so much fun, like, and you'd watch them and you remember when, like I remember when that was me, and so, like, just kind of, like, wanting to be, like, a huge role model for them, and, um, yeah, like, it's awesome, and obviously, like, the game of hockey is forever growing and new things here and there, and, like, I love, like, kind of, like, digging deeper into, like, the little skills of the game and, like, the little things that kind of can make a big difference, and so, like, although they're younger girls, like, obviously I can pick things up here and there, and, like, what I'm teaching them, I'm like, "Okay, like, I can maybe get better at this myself," and, it's just so awesome, like, you see how much they look up to you. I mean, if I demo a drill, like, their eyes are absolutely glued to me, and I'm like, "Okay, like, I gotta just, make a good impression here,"
Yeah.
but no, it's awesome, and I absolutely love coaching, so
Earlier, you had mentioned about the U.S. and the continued growth through the most recent Olympics, and we saw the success specifically that the American program had there. And I have a specific question about that as well in just a moment. But I do want to know, because you've also had the chance to represent your country, including at the under 18 Women's World Championships. Um, what do you remember most about putting on that jersey and what it meant to do so?
yeah, I mean, at any level, it's always such an honor to put that jersey on, and obviously, like, when you put that jersey on, you're doing it for the girls and the players who come after you and the ones who came before you, and, I think for me at that time when I was able to wear the jersey, like, just trying to do my best and represent, the logo on the front, but obviously you just wanna I mean, all your hard work kinda pays off in those moments, and you're like, "Wow, like, it's finally here," it's a great feeling.
Yeah, I guess that's an interesting perspective because it is truly a reflection of the journey that you were. Yes, of course, it means you were really good, of course, but it's also a reflection of your own growth and your own development. And for you, you've had the opportunity not only to represent your country, but also to come back with medals. And I wanted to know, when you think about the opportunity to win, when you've put in the work and you've won medals, rather, um, what did those experiences teach you about yourself and your journey up until that point?
I mean, so much, just everything. I mean, I always think back to my first year, that I played on the U18 team, so in 2022, I was obviously just like a kid from Connecticut trying to make a name for myself. So they would call you and it was like, you're either invited to the U16 camp
Mhm.
or the U18. And obviously the goal for me was just to make it right to 18 camp. So my journey was a little bit shorter, but unfortunately I was had to go to the U16 camp first. And I think for me, like it felt like a setback. But as soon as I got there, I was like, you know what? Like I'm gonna have a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. First of all, represent Connecticut, but represent myself and kind of make a name for myself. And so I ended up making it U16, then I went back for U18, then I went to festival and then on to the team. And I think after my 3rd flight to Minnesota that summer, which didn't really feel like a summer, but, like, I was perfectly fine with it. I was, obviously so honored and, just knew that, like, at this point, I was like, "Okay, like, I made it through 3 steps, and now I'm on the team," and, like, just looking forward to going to the tournaments, and then obviously, like, first year being on a team with, some girls and some names that, I mean, were just mentioned at this year's Olympics, and
Mhm.
that's obviously a roster that I look back on and I'm like, "Wow, like, that was an amazing team, and we had so much fun, and we all got better, and we all pushed each other." Fortunately, we didn't come out on top, but I think, like, I learned so much through that experience and just learned so much by being around, like, those great players and then being able to go back the next year, and we were in Sweden that year, but being able to go back and have a letter on my chest and just, like,
Mhm.
being able to lead a group of girls that all wanted the same thing, was really special too.
Okay, so then knowing that you had to overcome some adversity there, and maybe, of course, not you didn't end up taking the path that you would have wanted to get to where you ended up. What did that teach you about yourself and in your resilience to continue? Maybe the plan doesn't always go to plan, but it ended up working out at the end. So, what did that mean for you in terms of your own perspective on yourself, both as a player but as a person?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, when something like that hits, I mean, obviously, like, it's still an honor. You're going to a USA national camp, and so I think I just had to, like, snap out of that for a second and just be like, "Okay, it's still a camp, like, I have a chance to go and kind of show who I am and show what I can do out there." But I think, like, you can go one of 2 ways when that kinda happens, and I chose to kinda rise above it and just say, like, "You know what? Like, it is what it is, like, now I have this in front of me, and I can either be like, "Okay, hang my head, like, maybe it hurt my ego, like, put that aside, like, whatever, it doesn't matter," and just kinda go out there and be like, "You know what? I'm gonna make the best of it, and this is my situation, but I'm gonna work hard, and I'm gonna do what I can," and it ended up working out for me.
Yeah, it's just a bump in the road. It doesn't mean that it has to be, it doesn't have to stop your journey. It's just a bump along the road, and that's totally fine.
Absolutely.
Um, as I had mentioned just a moment ago, I wanted to touch on the success of the American program. And I think for fans of women's hockey, let's be honest, we kind of saw this coming for a while, but it keeps coming, and it's always really impressive to watch. Whether it's the rivalry series or, of course, at the most recent at these Olympics, they're just so dominant, and I always make the observation that it's really interesting that they were able to integrate both their youth, as you've mentioned, as well as a lot of those veterans. Um, I'm going to put you on the spot here and ask you, maybe as someone who's been on the inside, of course, not giving away any trade secrets here, but um, what do you think? What do you attribute that success to? What do you attribute this? It isn't just a one off, it just continues to happen and it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. What do you attribute that to? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, like, I when you asked this question, I immediately thought back to, like, the camps that I've been to, and I think there's a sense of pride in all of the girls who kind of go through any of those processes, and I think, like, no matter what level it's at, like, they're instilling, the kind of values of USA Hockey in there, and I think obviously it's working, but
Mhm,
as you said, like, um, the development is absolutely insane, and it's an honor anytime you can go to a USA hockey camp and kind of get, all of the best around you, and, the staff and the coaches are the best around too, and, um, like, they take pride in developing the youth to then go on and play on the senior national team for a lot of years. Like, I mean, Hillary Knight is
mhm.
I mean, she's been there forever. She's kind of paved the way for a lot of girls, but no, I would just say, like, it's the pride that they instill in you, and, like, you go to one camp and you're like, "Wow, like, I am proud to, be an American, I'm proud to be at this camp, and I'm gonna work hard and, do what I can for the program that whatever program I go back to," but just kinda knowing that, like, you have a little bit of USA Hockey in you and, just doing what you can to represent that too.
Yeah, I have to be honest and say that as a Canadian, it pains me a little bit to say this, but it was really tough not to root for the Americans in the Olympics. It was every game. I mean, it didn't feel particularly close at any point, but it was just so much fun. And I've made the comment before that anytime you don't need Hillary Knight to score a goal and you still win a game pretty in dominant fashion, like that's got to be great to see from your perspective as a fan, but of course as someone who's been in the program. But does that kind of like to see that continued success and that continued growth? Does that I mentioned earlier about fueling your passion. Does that also continue to fuel your passion to strive to be even better because you want to be representing your country on the biggest and brightest of stages?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like for a lot of players, it's always the end goal, but I think it's kind of like the path along the way that's sometimes more important. And obviously, that's a big goal of mine to be on the biggest stage possible. But obviously, it was super awesome to watch this Olympics, and I think, like, anytime you're watching US Canada, the rivalry is absolutely insane. But obviously, I think, like, the US was pretty dominant throughout the tournament on both sides, men and women. So, obviously, it's awesome and definitely something I strive for sure.
Yeah, I didn't think that the gold medal final would be particularly close at all. So I'm glad that it was,
Yeah.
because I wasn't emotionally ready for it to be another blowout as a Canadian fan. But we'll move right along. I did want to, speaking of the path of your path, I do want to talk about your collegiate career. Um, you started with you made the jump from junior to collegiate, starting with Boston College, and now, as I mentioned off the top, with the University of Minnesota. For you, how was that jump from junior to collegiate, and did you feel like the experiences that you had, especially with the national program and things like that, set you up for success once you made that jump? Because it's a pretty big jump, no big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, playing on the U18 teams and kind of going to the USA stuff definitely prepares you. I mean, you're around some of the best players and also a lot of players that you'll end up seeing in college. And so I think like obviously that's a huge thing for me. And then like I said, Selects Academy or BK Selects, they definitely like the way that they kind of build their program, like you just feel so prepared. And it when you're there, it almost feels like a mini college. And so I think that really helped me going into my freshman year at Boston College. And then obviously once I was at BC, just the coaches and the teammates that supported me and I had great upperclassmen that really like led the way and kind of showed me like what's up, you know? But it was awesome. I mean, obviously, it's always a little bit of an adjustment, but I think my transition was a lot smoother because of the people that surrounded me and my beginning of college like experiences were awesome and kind of got me to where I am now too.
Yeah, and speaking of where you are, of course, University of Minnesota. Talk about an incredible program to be a part of. What's that been like for you? In making that adjustment, in being a part of a new program, new expectations, new systems, an incredibly talented team, and it seems like every year they somehow find a way to get even better. What's that been like for you, and how has being a part of that program helped you to grow both on and off the ice?
Yeah, I mean, it's been absolutely amazing so far and kind of the same thing of just like the support that I've had since I've been here. The coaches, my teammates, we have alum too that are great with our program and um we get a lot of support and we get a lot of resources here and I think it's just been really helpful for me and I wanted a challenge in my next step of my collegiate career, and I wanted it to be hard, and I didn't want anything to be easy. And I think that's definitely what I've gotten so far. And I've learned a lot about myself as a player and as a person, and so I'm super grateful for that. But I mean, obviously, being on a team as talented as ours, it's always special. Every day you show up to the rink, you want to give your best just to make those around you better, and it's truly special being a part of a team that I can see, competing for national championships for a really long time, and Coach Frost does a great job with the program, and it's pretty awesome to see what they do, and I mean, obviously, it's Minnesota, like, it doesn't get much better than that, and I've had a great time kind of experiencing the Midwest, for the first time.
Mhm. Could you also talk about your head coach and the impact that he's had of course, on your game on the ice, but just kind of maybe how you approach the game away from the ice as well. But what has his impact been on you in this relatively short period of time? But I know that he's an incredible coach, so I'm sure that he's instilled some wisdom on you.
Yeah, I mean, he's incredible, like you said, like, he knows how to run this program, and he's not only just a great coach for us, but he's a great role model, and he's a great person, and, he's just someone that, like, you really wanna work hard for, and I think that not everyone kind of can have those, values, and but I think, like, what he instills in us is just, like, be a good person, but more importantly, work hard and you'll get the results that you want. But he's been like seriously so awesome, and he's definitely helped the transition. But he's turned my game around already, and he's been hard on me, and that's what I asked him to do. So I've been loving it.
What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned in your collegiate journey, starting at the beginning up until right now? that you feel is really lent itself to your growth? I'm going to say away from the ice.
I think a lot of it is, like, just finding the joy in everything that you're doing. Um, Not a lot of people get to be, college athletes, and so obviously taking a lot of pride with that, but just making the best of it every day and not wishing any time away because it flies by and I'm already a junior going into my senior year. And so just, yeah, finding the joy in little things, finding the joy in every day and also just like being joyful, like while you're working hard, I think is a big one for me for sure.
I want to ask um, about community involvement. It's something that is clearly important to you, and I wanted to hear why. Why is being involved in the community, being connected with the community, such an important part of your story as well?
Yeah, I mean, this year I've had the opportunity to be working with Children's Minnesota, and I think it's just something that I really wanted to do to give back. And obviously, it's my first time in the Midwest, my first time in
Mhm.
Minnesota, and just kind of like putting myself out there and giving back to a community that has already given me so much. And I've been able to kind of spend time in the children's play area, and so it's a time of day where either siblings or sometimes patients can come in, and it's their one time of day to kind of feel like a normal kid and feel like they're in a normal environment. And so for me, it's been really special to be a part of that. I think I take for granted sometimes things that uh, kind of go on in my life, and so being able to step away from hockey, from school, from everything else, and just getting a couple hours once a week, just doing that is just it really reminds you like what life truly is about, and kind of not
Mhm.
taking things so seriously. But no, it's been awesome to give back too.
Okay, final buzzer segment of the show. This is just a fun, as I said, fun rapid fire way to wrap up the conversation. I'm going to try to do my best and not ask a single follow up question, so this will be nice and smooth. But we're going to start with, what is your go to pregame meal?
Pre-game meal is always pasta, any type of pasta. Honestly, I'm not super picky about it, but yeah,
Okay. What is one thing that you enjoy doing away from the ring?
golf. That's definitely up there. In the summer, I think it's one of my favorite things to do. So yeah.
I wish I knew more about golf so that as much as I said I wouldn't ask any follow up questions. I could ask like, "What's your handicap?" and know what it actually means.
Yeah.
What is your? I'll just humor me. What is your handicap?
Honestly, that's a great question. I don't really have a good answer for you only because I would say like I don't do it enough yet. Like
Okay,
I think I obviously I've been golfing for a really long time. My dad's always golfed, and so um but like we kind of go out there and it's not always a full 18. It's usually like a 9, 10 holes, and then it gets dark and it's like okay, time to go home. But I've definitely gotten better, and I've definitely outdriven my dad a few times. So um, yeah.
I call that a win. That's a win right
Yeah, for
there.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Now you've mentioned, of course, family being really important aspects of your journey, but who are some of those other people along your hockey journey who have been really important, really big influences on that journey?
Yeah, I mean, I always think coaches, obviously, first thing that comes to mind, and like I mentioned, Janice Yang, huge one for me. Then I think back to kind of like when I played on the boys' teams growing up, because there weren't a lot of girls' teams in the area, and so Coach Tommy O'Connor was my coach for one of my first boys' teams, and then Rand Pecknold, who's actually the head coach for Quinnipiac men's. He was another coach that I had, and obviously, like, you have a lot of coaches in your time, and I could thank a lot of them, but those 3, I would say, stand out the most to me as being super helpful and telling me good things when I needed to hear good things, but also kind of being tough on me and knowing, my potential and kinda getting me to where I wanted to go.
Of course, yeah, it's good and the bad, right?
Yeah.
What is something that people might not know about you?
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I actually used to be a goalie for hockey when I was younger.
Okay. Well, now I have to ask another follow-up question, and that's going to be, what made you first start there, but move away and no longer be a goalie?
Yeah, so my dad played, he was a goalie, and he was at Hobart. I think, like, just having his old gear in the house, I was like, "Ooh, like, maybe I wanna be a goalie," and, pretty shortly after, my dad actually talked me out of it because he's like, "Trust me, like, you don't wanna go through that," and I was there once, so I don't want my little girl to be a goalie, I want her to, just play out.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. And play out you have. Um, Last one for you. When you think about all of the different experiences that you've had, the journey that you've been on, what are some of the things that you're most grateful for?
I would just say, like, my support system. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of athletes in any sport could say it, but you can't really get to the highest levels of anything without people supporting you along the way. And obviously, my parents, my mom, my dad, my brother have always been there for me. Um, Cousins, grandma, grandpa, like all of them. I mean, they absolutely have fallen in love with hockey just as much as I have, through supporting me. And yeah, I would just say without the people around me that cared about me enough to drive me to the rink early in the morning and hop out for an early skills session, I definitely wouldn't be where I am now.
That is an absolutely perfect way to wrap up the conversation and this episode of Rinkside Rundown. Molly, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, hang out, chat, share your story. I cannot wait to keep cheering you on. You're a friend of the show now, so just you wait. We're cheering you on, and I can't wait to do so. Thanks so much for this.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow hockey fans. Your support helps me to keep bringing you stories just like this one from around the world of women's hockey. I'm Chris Sinclair. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time on Ringside Rundown.